Welcome to the Tech Savvy Recruiter, the podcast for recruitment and staffing agency owners keen to explore the tech innovations reshaping our industry. I'm Andrew Rodger from Recmate.
And I'm Belinda Kerr from Recruitment Garage, and together we're your hosts, bringing you a stellar lineup of recruitment tech and AI experts ready to help you understand and, more importantly, benefit from the increasing array of tech available to you today. Welcome to a slightly different episode of the Tech Savvy Recruiter. Andrew and I are sitting down together to reflect on what we've been doing with our guests over the last almost 2 years of running the Tech Savvy Recruiter podcast. We'll look at some of our favorite episodes, some of the things that we've learned, and we think it'll give you a nice highlight reel, if you like, of some of the good things and just keep you a little more abreast of what's happening across AI and tech. So sit back, enjoy, and I'm going to enjoy my chat with Mr. Rodger, as I always do. And we might kick off with a few of our favorite episodes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And there's so many we've done. I think it's 30 or 40, maybe. I can't remember.
We're heading in the 30s.
Yeah. So when we were chatting earlier in the week about doing this session, I had to sort of cast my mind over the previous sessions because we've covered so many topics, different people, so many generous people have spent some time with us. And I've just found it really fun. You know me, I love my tech and love systems and processes, and having the chance to talk with some of these founders of businesses that are really influencing the way that we work as recruiters has been, a really valuable experience. I've been very grateful.
Yes, likewise. And I have learned so much. And what's been lovely is I've been able to take that back to my cohort. And I think one of the lessons for me is understanding that there is so much AI out there, so much tech out there. You're never going to be an expert in everything. It's always going to be changing, but we're all in it together. We all kind of feel a bit overwhelmed and, what should we be getting and how should we be implementing it? But one of the lessons I've learned is very much we want to start with what the use case is and then go and find the technology. Sure, keep abreast of it, read about it, listen to podcasts, read blogs, all that kind of stuff. But don't think that you have to know everything, because it's only going to get harder and harder as it gets more so. So that was one of the kind of big takeaways I've had, which makes
it can
me feel
get
a little
overwhelming,
bit calmer.
can't it? It can get very overwhelming. For me, I live and play with it all day, and I was chatting with this topic with somebody the other day, and I was thinking, I get a little bit anxious around not knowing enough, and then when you sort of take a step back, because we're in the mix of it all. Yeah. Right in the middle, there is a lot of noise in the market, and it must be overwhelming for, the recruiters out there who aren't in the middle of it and don't have the exposure that you and I do to different tech platforms, different providers, different solutions, just to try and filter out a lot of that noise.
Yeah. And the other thing I think too is there's so many differing opinions, like somebody, I love Stephen Bartlett, the CEO of the Diary of a CEO. And I was listening to one guest, like really senior AI guy, I can't remember the gentleman's name. And he was saying there's only going to be 5 jobs left when AI really gets a hold of us, like one of really senior, like almost one of the AI founding fathers. And then the next person comes on and says, it's just going to create so much opportunity. And I think if the guys at the top have these polarizing opinions, we just have to stay really open and just see how the cards fall.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I've got no doubt the human will definitely be in the loop. It's just where we fit in the loop. It can be as simple as thinking maybe, the car is a manual car in most cases now. There's an automatic transition in there, and that transmission does all the work that you would normally do with a gear shift of the years gone by. So we just, my kids will grow up not knowing that. And, I've got a firm opinion that maybe my youngest kids won't ever own their own cars nor drive them manually because it might be too expensive, because the technology will be there to be a safer vehicle if the AI is driving the vehicle for us. So I think different industries will evolve in different ways. Just look at, taxis and Uber, for example. There's still humans in the loop there, but it's a very different system to hail a cab via an app now, as opposed to putting your hand out to flag a taxi down. Just going back to what you gained most out of this series that we've been running, apart from obviously spending time together, which is always fun, is that I was thinking the other day, I think, I love that curiosity with technology and systems and processes. I think that's probably the biggest message that we can amplify, is to still be curious. And it can be a bit overwhelming with all this tech coming down towards us as in different industries. In the recruitment space, there's so many different moving parts there for us as professionals. Just continue to be curious, and you won't land it right the first time. Okay, so the piece of technology that you invest in this month, this year, you probably won't be using long term. But the rate of change, the ease of change is going to be much, much better for us as, customers of technology. And I think we can miss the boat if we think, I'm going to wait till next year and there's going to be a different system, a different process, a different way that I can do it. It's going to be easier for me to implement that thing next year.
So that's really interesting that you say that, because I know you are the automation guy, because I think, my God, all these new things coming out. So if we were just talking about, before this, we were talking about Make, and then we're going to talk about Bold, how that's kind of the new iteration of what's going on there. So then if you're somebody who learns to use Make and build your workflows and things around that, then the next thing comes along. What happened? Like, cause I think, oh, well, you've spent that time to do that. Then what happens? So, like, when you think about that, what runs through your mind?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you've got to have that, I guess, philosophy that things will change. Okay. And there will be a better option for you. So I was speaking with a customer earlier this week, and they've got a really deep investment in Keep for their marketing funnels. And we're chatting with them around doing a lot of automation stuff and AI, which I know Keep is building, but at the moment it doesn't have voice agents or chat agents as AI agents, which is what we're working with that customer to do. And she said to me, Andrew, you're going to break my heart if you say that we have to move off Keep. And I said, well, listen, let's do the most we can to keep you in Keep, ironically, and then have an agent go on top of that. Okay, so you can take somebody through a funnel. If they've got queries, have the agent answer those queries instead of you, because they're processing, gosh, it's 1,000 text messages a week from queries. So they need somebody in between those. And these are early stage prospects getting Q&As. So to answer your question, I think that the technology will evolve and there'll be layers on top, which will then interact with the base layer technologies. Okay? So it'll be the interface for us. I think you mentioned Bolt, and we were chatting about that offline prior to the session, bolt.new. Viewers, listeners, look that up now. It's a very simple interface that'll build you an app, build your website instantly, just from plugging in, hey, I want an app to help me make my garden grow more efficiently, whatever it might be. Completely random example there. And it will then build something within seconds for you, which will take, months potentially and tens of thousands of dollars historically to do the same thing.
I was playing around with Gamma yesterday, the one that does creates pitch decks. I think it does websites as well. And I just wanted to play with it, and I was blown away. I was like, oh, this is crazy! Like all those hours of doing PowerPoints and things.
Yeah, within ChatGPT, I've mocked up a few websites for people, just side project things, and it comes up with a great start for a website. If you want to just spin something up very quickly, you can instruct it to build its website, does all the HTML coding. You can then download that package that it will put as a zip file, and then push that up through to the server to host that website. And it takes minutes, whereas historically hours.
I know what you and I like, because we talk, we like to chat. So I'm going to get us back on track and say, let's talk about your favorite guests that we had, and a little bit about why they are.
Yeah, I think we've had so many amazing people. It was hard to sort of narrow it down to my sort of top 5, top 6, but really, really enjoyed the time that we spent with Billy from Bullhorn. Big focus on AI and automation. He's got such a deep history in that part of the world and has so many really generous philosophies around sharing information. And he's just a really lovely guy to chat with as well. But he's such a smart individual around how to implement things simply. For those that haven't heard from him, just Google Build with Billy. I think it might be on YouTube, or Billy Bullhorn on YouTube, and there's like a stock of videos in there that you can watch. He usually posts on a Tuesday, I think, US time. He's out of East Coast US, so it might be Wednesday our time in Australia, but really good person to follow on LinkedIn. So gives you some really in-depth studies. Some of the videos you could just watch and emulate in your automation platform, and get some great return on investment from that time spent there. Loved his generosity, loved his philosophy. He was good person to chat with. How about you? What's on your list?
Yeah, well, Billy was on my list as well, but I took him on. And in fact, had a lot of crossover.
We did.
And Andrew, you and I were saying at the beginning, gosh, it's hard just to pick our favourites, because everyone was really generous with their time and generous with the information, which is amazing, because our goal is obviously to connect the tech and the founders. I also thought John Burke as well, because he's obviously come up through the recruiter ranks, but now is building some really interesting products. But I just think that his whole take on AI and his practical way that he looks at things,
Yes.
I really love. And he's just, he's just a big ball of fun, really. But he's really clever. He understands where AI is going. His product rec view is amazing. And I just think that the way he talks about AI keeps things very practical and keeps it real and keeps it simple. Whereas I find sometimes I listen to people and I just feel more stupid after the conversation, because I think I've got no idea what they're talking about. With John, I kind of feel more, now I get it. Yep, that makes sense. And so I think he's a really good advocate for AI and a really good case example of somebody to follow and listen to.
Yeah, I do know what you mean around that type of person who's maybe business first and tech second. He's sort of got that really grasp of how to talk to people easily. And whereas some technology professionals, amazing, brainiacs in their field, but they're a little bit different to speak to on a business level. John keeps it real.
You know what else it is as well, is I think sometimes people get so close to their product, they get quite myopic, whereas thought leaders look more broadly. They understand that, there's a lot more to make the full picture. So I think that helps too.
I think it helps because he runs his own rec-to-rec firm, doesn't he? So
exactly,
he's got that practical implementation of technology as well as his technology plays that he's obviously developed to, help his business first. And then he said, hey, well, it works for me. Why don't I share this product with a broader audience? I love also his philosophy. He's traveling the world at the moment with his partner. So he's doing the whole, remote.
Yeah, he was in Portugal, I think last time we caught up.
Yeah. So a bit of envy there, but I do live vicariously through his posts, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, we're all, now we've got kids and stuff. He's still on the right side of that, isn't he?
100%. The next one I was thinking about is LJ, Lauren Jones. I think she might have been our first cab off the rank.
She was.
Yeah. And then she was generous enough to spend some more time with us recently, I think about 18 months after her first appearance there. And again, somebody so generous with their time, expertise and philosophy. And I think is just one of those really good people to be that translator between tech and business. So she gets it. Again, she's come from in-house. She was, I think, ops for a number of recruitment firms and then started her own consulting firm to help recruiters with their tech. So, always love her.
She recalls stats like nobody else I know.
I know. I wish I could do that.
I know. I couldn't even tell you how many pieces of toast I had for breakfast, but she can, like stats. Super. She's a brainiac.
Yeah.
She just
I think that's probably why I click with her a lot, because she's very much numbers driven. So, which I think we should all be, very focused on numbers as much as possible, as the warm and fuzzies you get from using a platform or using a system. And that return on investment is probably a real one that I think vendors are starting to click, that it makes more sense to do, hey, this is our calculator, how to get more out of what you're doing by utilizing our product. Whereas I think historically it was very much showmanship around, this is what the amazing stuff our tech platform can do or our tech plugin can do. And people were sold on the hype rather than the actual delivery of that benefit. So, I'm seeing that a lot more in vendor land around showing the true return on investment, which I think is very important to calculate before you sign on the dotted line for anything.
Yes, indeed. I noticed another one there that you and I both had was Ross Clement. And I love Ross. Ross used to be my boss, I always say, years ago. And he and I could not be more opposite. So Ross he's so detailed and so thorough and just goes into all the statistics and the details. I just want to chat and kind of know the bottom line. And so we actually invited him on because he'd written a really good blog about the volume recruitment being over, or volume recruitment is toast. I can't remember the exact topic. So there's my lack of detail.
Yeah, I think he did a blog post or an article called, I think exactly that, volume recruiters are toast.
Yeah, and it was really interesting and so thorough and insightful as all his stuff is. And if you're not following Ross, definitely do that. And he has a podcast with Adele. Yeah. But he was talking about how McDonald's had implemented Olivia for the chat and was just hiring all of their junior staff via chat. And so he's really well read up, and whatever you hear from Ross, you can trust that it's substantiated. It's not just a fluffy opinion.
He does go into a very deep dive on the numbers for a lot of agencies' performance as well. So that's interesting. I find follow him, and I think his podcast comes out on Tuesday, which I listen to regularly. Really good insight into what's happening in our market. Not just Australia, but also a global market in terms of the way that the recruitment space is moving. Is it plus or minus in certain regions in terms of demand, which is quite interesting, particularly with the whole adage around, what's going to happen with the recruitment sector, with AI, with technology, etc. But I think, you and I have both been through transitions in technology before. Do you think around the way that we advertise jobs? It wasn't online for a long time, right? So it was in a thing called a print advertising, which for some of our listeners and viewers, they may not know what the hell I'm talking about here.
I used to sell it. There was so much of it. It used to just come. Did you? It used to just come flying through the window. There was so much.
Those that don't, definitely follow him. Got some really good stuff. A lot of free information there that can help you make some good business decisions as well. And the podcast too. I was listening to his podcast, might have been a couple of weeks back now, but he wrote an article, I think it was 2008. And it was like crimes of the database. Things that recruiters do or don't do when they're interacting with the database, mainly that they don't do. And all of them held true today. It's like making a call, not putting notes in the system, not updating the best contact details for the contact or the client, not doing all these things, and they're so true today. But I think, we're going to supplement, because let's face it, most of us in sales aren't good at the admin side. And I think we were talking offline about monkeys and fish before. Students aren't all geared the same way. And likewise, us as professionals aren't either. So I think the exciting thing with technology is it's going to supplement the stuff that we're not good at and to lift us up so we can focus on the stuff we are really good at doing. So it's that sort of strengths-based coaching in a technology hack. Conversations now that you have with candidates and clients can be instantly pushed into the database. Extracts from that using another platform that we had on was Josh from Quill. They've got a great, lovely product out of Canada. And when you record a session, be it a sales call or a candidate interview, it can extract certain parts of that conversation. So I could say, hey, BK, what are you looking for in terms of dollars for your next move? And you give me a number, and then that can get pushed into the desired salary field, for example, in your core database. So that's stuff that we traditionally were programmed. The School of Recruitment, you come out of an interview. In the old days, we were writing stuff with pen and paper and pushing that into whatever database receptacle you had, and you go line by line, pushing in the relevant data there. That's all, lovely changes there to the way that we work.
I love what you said there too, because I think a lot of probably half of the guests we've had on, I'd say, have actually come out of recruitment. Like John, we mentioned. I know Brian had as well, Justin Hillier, I think.
Yes.
And others. And what's lovely about that is that they understand the recruitment perspective. They're looking to solve a problem. They haven't really come at it from the tech angle. Sean Henry is another one from Floats AI. But they find a problem in their business and then they solve that. And that's great because they're the ones that are spot on. And then you get these other tech that, some kids decided that
someone's got funding out of Silicon Valley or Austin now, and they think, this should solve this problem in staffing or recruitment or whatever.
Do you know what's really funny? I was listening to quite a prominent software entrepreneur the other day, like big multimillionaire, loads of companies, a big investor in tech. And he was saying, now there's this product. He was going, he didn't say recruitment's dead, but he's like, we can find people now without recruiters. What was the product he mentioned I hadn't heard of? It started with H and I can't remember. Anyway, let's just say that it was Pin or Juice Box, or it could have been any of those. And he was talking about that. And then later on he said, and then there's this other product called Atlas. It's an AI that calls people or answers calls. And I tried to call a recruiter the other day, a recruitment company for something, and I couldn't get through. They should have been using Atlas. I'm like, hang on a minute, you just said that you don't need recruiters because recruiters are dead. And then his next example of a piece of AI that he was using, the example he was giving was because he was trying to get in touch with a recruiter. So I kind of thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, listen, these AI developers have to sell it to somebody, so they can't really kill off all their sales prospects, one would think. And the biggest thing that holds people back is risk from implementing change in systems. That's time and time in all the studies I read, at least, is the number one thing that's holding people back. And it's that fear of change. And it's not been proved 100% with this new fast evolving technology. I mean, there's just stuff coming out every single day. And let's face it, automation and AI has been around for quite a while, but not open to the public, let's say, for very long in the scheme of things.
Look, what we've seen in the last 18 months, that surpasses everything we've had to deal with before, I think. Me personally, anyway, maybe that's not right, but that's how I feel.
100%. And that stat that I know you and I both quote around the power of automation and AI will be 1 million times in 5 years' time. That's still mind blown. Can't sort of picture what that looks like for industries around the world.
No.
And coming back to your discussion around that guest on Stephen Bartlett's show, maybe there will be just 5 jobs, playing devil's advocate. Not sure what the rest of us will be doing, but
who knows? Who knows? So, Rodger, who's your next
Who
guest?
is on my next list? Rod Smythe from Glide. Loved having his discussions. He's doing a really interesting play, for those that didn't see the episode, of having a middleware piece that sits on top of your database, so you don't have to change databases, but then also interacts with your Microsoft or Google environments. So what it does is, where I think we'll probably be heading, is having a very simple interface. My personal opinion about where we will be in a period of time, I haven't worked out what this period of time will be yet, BK, is if we step out of a meeting, be it a candidate interview or a client call or whatever, our agent will be there, and then the agent will be doing all the things we might have used to have done. Okay, so if it's, if we've taken a job brief with the customer, it will have written the ad. If we're going to advertise that, it will have searched our database to look at potential candidates that we can discuss that option with, or come up with a long list of people that we can start SMSing or interacting with to screen them in or out if they're available at the moment. All those kind of steps that we would normally do as a recruiter, I think will be put on fast track. So similar to when you jump off any of your calls today, you'll get a transcript summary and then maybe some action items already done via that AI interface that you've got that's recording everything we do now. So
that's great too, because he's got quite an extensive recruitment back. He's founded quite a few.
Again, that philosophy around coming from inside the industry and then developing something's playing true there, isn't it?
They're gonna go gangbusters, I reckon.
Yeah, I was speaking with a couple of months ago, and he said they're doing well. I think he launched it, in his words, too early, but I think he's just at that tipping point now where I guess the market is being educated around how to utilize technology, how to leverage AI, and then what's the best practical application of it all. Coming back to, I guess, one of your earlier questions around what are we going to do with everything we've got? Do we have to keep changing stuff? I think that middleware piece will be the one that will interact with most, and it will then liaise with the other tech stack pieces that we have. Interacting from one technology platform to another would be a lot easier as well. Because traditionally it's a little bit tricky to build those links.
That's such a good point, isn't it? Such a good point. Because so we do a lot of email, and I know that lots of people say, oh, email is dead. Case in point, it's not. It has an amazing ROI if you do it well. But the challenge in recruitment is you've got things like Bullhorn, Loxo, all those kind of things that have got their purpose built, and they're all changing, but none of them, I think, yet are at the same capabilities of a really solid email marketing platform.
Dedicated platform, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got your CRM and you're paying sort of by user by month for that. But then in your email marketing platform, it's by contacts, and
by volume.
They do talk to each other, but you still got two systems that are kind of doing the same thing. You're just getting more detail over here with your email marketing platform. And I think it's always been this thing. We're doubling up. We've got too many extra things going on. We just want one streamlined system. And that, like listening to you talk there, that's coming. I mean, we interviewed, had that amazing conversation with Justin, who created all his stuff on the weekend. He's got his own agency, but if you haven't, go and check that issue, episode if you haven't seen it, with Justin Blij, BLIJ. He's a recruiter, has his own business, but put all these tools and tech and everything, streamlined it all in one weekend. And that's going to solve a huge problem, isn't it? That's great.
Oh, 100%. I think having disparate systems that are specifically built for their niche will be here for a while. So having that connection between one platform and another has been tricky historically, but I think that having that layer on top being the single interface, so you have that meeting and you might use Google Meet or you might use Teams, that information that's captured in there flowing through to the database in a very structured way of having a recording and maybe some extraction of certain data points and pushed into certain fields in the database has been historically tricky to do. But having that interface be that translator between different systems is going to be a game changer, I think. So you can still then use those very, very tightly developed products for that niche, in your example, email marketing, on top of what you're doing from a core database. You did mention one thing that always comes up, and that's I want a system that does it all. Not sure if that's in our future, but yeah, I'd like to be proved wrong. I still think, to your point, there's going to be opportunity for niche tech plays to solve a particular issue. Another person we chatted with.
Mitchell Tan. Yeah,
Mitchell,
he's great.
Mitchell Tan.
I love
is a perfect example of that. For those that haven't seen it, it's a platform which will help you manage your DMs within LinkedIn. I know it's amazing.
I'd pay 10 times the amount I think it's like $300 a year or something, and I would pay 10 times that. It's just game changer for LinkedIn DMs.
Yeah, it keeps you on top of things. You can put a reminder if you pause a conversation with somebody to come back in a certain period, just to tap them on the shoulder again, all that kind of good stuff. You can do a whole bunch of things that is more interactive than you can natively in LinkedIn.
Another person, Andrew, I thought was amazing was Andrew Nair, in the conversation around cybersecurity and the risk to recruiters. In fact, we've got another cybersecurity person coming in to talk to my group next week, because they're starting, my guys are small businesses, and they're the bad actors, as they call them, are starting to really focus in on small businesses, and recruiters are a pretty prime target because we handle so much personal information. I thought that was fascinating from the perspective of you don't know what you don't know with cybersecurity, and making sure you're getting the appropriate insurances and advice around how you can avoid being hacked. And actually, Luke, the gentleman that's coming to speak to us in Growth Club next week, he said that there's like 90% of the you're preparing yourself or avoiding reducing the risk is pretty simple. So there's a lot you can do without spending a lot of money and without having it too complicated. And then the sort of final 10% is, but if you can do 90% and you're not doing much at all at the moment, that's a long way forward. So I loved that conversation with Andrew, and I had a few wake up moments. One of the things that rocked me a little bit was we just use Google Workplace, and I assumed wrongly that because I used Google and it was all on Google that was all fine. But he said one of your employees could come in and just wipe everything. And I was like, oh my God, they could too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought because it was Google and it was all on Google that it would be fine. But so then I fixed that, obviously. But
well, it's the same for recruitment platforms. So if you've got insert company name here, job at a bullhorn, tracker, whatever you've got, Salesforce, keep whatever platform, any platform, pick a platform, it's going to be the same. Yeah, if there's a rogue actor or a bad actor, to your words, inside the building with access to your database and is really disgruntled with the business, and there's nothing stopping them silently deleting stuff. And there's no rollback for the facility.
If they were really vicious, they could get rid of the whole lot in one night.
They could do. Yeah, and traditionally there'd be tapes and drives, daily backups and a weekly backup that you could roll back to. Is the way that we always did it when there was a thing called a server room inside of office building, and then the IT person would have different tape drives, one for every week, one for every day, one for every month to do a full month backup, and just rotate them. And it was part of the role to switch the tape out every day.
I remember doing it.
Yeah, to your point, if you've got Google, you've got a Microsoft platform with whatever database linked in there. On top of that, there's no way you can roll that back.
No, that was a real eye-opener for me. If you're listening to this and you haven't really taken security too seriously, just listen to the episode and get some ideas and safeguard yourself.
And there's a lot of tools out there that can do it easily for you. So don't stress. I was working with a company who runs on Salesforce, and we put a cloud-based backup tool, which will just run on a daily basis and does a backup of that data to a separate server, which there's only a few people within the organization that have got access to that data. So it's once you know this stuff, that 90% to your point around, for a cybersecurity perspective is easy set and forget stuff. So yeah, definitely have a look at that session. But one thing to take away is you're probably not backed up as you need to be.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. And who else have we got for you? Have we gone through everybody? Have we got anyone left?
They were my main ones. We talked a little bit about Kondo there. I found him really interesting, and I love his posts on LinkedIn. So Mitchell Tan, follow him, really worthwhile to check him out. Check out that episode as well. Every recruiter I know uses LinkedIn, so it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. One more guy that I loved was Justin Hillier. He just has this no BS approach, and his passion around data is amazing. He's so much fun, and he's doing so well at showing different data points in businesses and capturing data that is starting to change operationally what we do for better results. And he can test all that with his platforms on the way through. And he's seeing really significant gains in people's output just by tweaking what they're doing in response to what the data is showing. So that was amazing. All right. Well, is there anyone else, Rodger? I
think that was it. We could keep going through each and every one, because I think they're all brilliant in their own silo of expertise. And I think that's probably the summary of the sessions we've had. We just had a lot of fun talking about these amazing creators who've got a really good handle of how the application of that piece of tech actually makes difference to the way we work.
So what's your favorite tool right now?
I'm in love with Lindy.
Does Hannah know about that?
Hannah does know about it, and she has nothing to fear. So Lindy AI is a tool set where you can snap that on the side, and it does a whole bunch of stuff. So for every meeting I have, it does me at 10 minutes before the meeting. You can set that to any sort of time frame before. It gives me a pre-meeting summary of what we've discussed beforehand with that individual. If there's any email that we've had back and forth with each other, it puts a summary of that in. If it's a new prospect I'm speaking with, it'll take their LinkedIn snapshot, give me a bio on them and any other sort of publicly available information, just so I get a bit more rounded perspective on who I'm speaking to from a BD perspective. But it is one of those similar type platforms to Make, where you can set up a huge amount of different automations. They've just dropped their AI agent in there, so you could realistically set it up to do what the human does inside of a recruitment firm for some of your processes that you think are too manual. Okay, there's too many clicks. So you could train it to do certain parts of your workflow process. If your current platform doesn't have a good AI setup, you could sort of supplement that with platforms similar to Lindy.ai. But yeah, it's been I run about 3 different note takers usually just to test things out. And so far it's been the best one I've found to do the summaries and most accurate next step items from conversations I'm having with people. Yeah, seamlessly sits in on recorded meetings and things like that. It does do the sort of phantom meeting. If I don't turn up to something for whatever reason, it can still turn up for me, which I don't really like. I think that's a bit weird. I think there's been a bit of coverage around, rogue agents turning up to meetings without their human counterparts. So I think people are having a bit more aware of that now. And I think John Burke's product has a built-in feature so it doesn't happen, so that their agents don't actually
I have
turn up.
that quite a lot in my coaching sessions. I have
you
the
probably will,
note taker turn up but not the person.
Yes. Yes, it's a bit weird. Do you kick them out, or do you let them sit in, just out of interest?
I haven't done, but I think I will. Because what's the point?
I mean, they can always see your recording, I'm presuming, if they want to review that session.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't think people do it. Well, maybe some people do it purposefully. I think some people just say, something comes up, you can't join that session for whatever reason, but the technology still says, hey, I need to join this thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll see how that. But yeah, Lindy, have a look at it. It's really fun and very easy to set up their flows and automations in there. And it's got so many things in there. Like it can flag urgent emails, time-sensitive emails for you. For example, if something comes in that says, "Hey Andrew, this is urgent. Can you help me out on this thing?" It can send you a Slack or send you a text message, so you see that. I know that sometimes. Well, I try not to spend any time as few amount of hours as I can in my inbox. I think there's a waste of time if we can have an overlay on top of that, be it human or otherwise, to do the
Lindy's great. And I think you might have another one as well.
Yeah, so newish one came out, I think, mid-year. They're already, I think it was a June or July release. They're already doing 20 million ARR, which is just an amazing achievement. Bolt.new. Okay, so I think we might have mentioned earlier in the session, but very simple interface, and you talk to it in a very natural human language, saying, "Hey, I want to do this thing. I want to build this thing," or what? Yeah, have a play with that. There's a free interface there, like most of these platforms have, and I think that might give you a little window into where I think we'll head. Earlier in the discussion, we were talking around there's so many pieces of tech, how it's going to all interrelate with each other. I think that's probably a really good example of how I think we'll you won't see the machinations behind the scenes as a human, similar to when you put a prompt into any of the modules, be it Chat or Claude or whatever you use. You don't see the whirring behind the scenes, but this one takes it to the next level. So yeah, so have a look at bolt.new.
Okay, I have another little. Condo is definitely my favorite. We already spoke about that, but I also love Whisper. I think it's WISPR. It just sits at the bottom of my screen there, and I click it, start dictating, and I hardly type at all anymore. And I know there's different apps that have that feature as well, but what I like about this is no matter where you are, you can just click it and in it goes.
Yeah. Do you use it on your mobile when you're doing text messages and things like that?
Sometimes, yeah, when I remember. If I'm in an app that has it, I won't. I'll probably use the in-app one that I've got, but I find it really helpful. It was a bit glitchy in the beginning, but it seems to have calmed down now and it's behaving.
Yeah, I think a lot of those models were. So Otter, for example, I tried when it first released, and it's come along so well, particularly with different vernaculars and slang. It picks it up much better. I remember the first time I used it was in a client meeting, and I said to the client, "Hey, let's have a look at the transcript to see what it comes up with. This is a new piece of tech." And it was just, we were in stitches what it came up with. It was not right at all. And some of the stuff was like a science fiction novel almost, right? That's some of the stuff it was saying. But that has evolved so much. And I think that interaction, the keyboard won't be dead for a little while, the mouse won't be dead for a little while, but I think it's moving towards that interaction. So, a lot of the stuff I do with the different interfaces is via voice prompts rather than type. I find it quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll wrap up in a second. I just wanted to ask you, because you're talking to people around automation, and you're much more across tech than I am. What tools do you think are sort of becoming common play now that weren't, say, 12 months ago? What is it that people you're finding are using and engaging with a lot more?
Listen, I think the recruitment space is really adopted those, again, whatever interface you use most, Claude, ChatGPT, in a big way, because a lot of the databases haven't caught up with the technology advancements. So they're supplementing that, and it's just becoming second nature for people to jump in and do things in there. It does propose a risk to the organisation if you don't have a policy and process around that.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth investing and investigating how your team is utilising those type of platforms, OpenAI, etc., because we can expose sensitive information to those platforms. And it's happening every day. There's not a recruitment agency out there that could honestly put their hand up and say that none of their staff do this, be it above board or under, just because we find the quickest and easiest way to get a solution.
Yes.
And utilizing AI is going to provide that. So I think those large language models are providing really good guidance. There's so many different ways that you can utilize those, set them up properly so you don't have to do the prompt again and again. So within ChatGPT, set up your projects or have a tool there that you can just replicate. It might be reformatting resumes, or it could be doing a summary of a brief or a reverse market if it's not built into your platform. I think that's probably the easiest and the thing I've seen most adopted there. I think what will follow the next 12 months, BK, is AI agents. I reckon that's definitely on the pathway for our industry, for us to have, or in probably most industries, most knowledge work industries, let's say, an AI agent counterpart.
It'll be interesting to look back in 12 months and have a look at the predictions and see what's actually happened.
Well, listen, Accenture just axed 8,000 staff. Okay, so it's October 2025, and they're also announced this is not the end. We're going to make a swift change to the way that we work. And those that aren't going to evolve will be swiftly moved out of the business. So I predict by the end of this year, they would have gone through every role in their organization and worked out what can be done via the machine and then how the human should interact with their customer base. So, a lot of those consulting firms obviously are under threat from technology and supplementing what they do via different platforms. So their response is obviously a signal to the world, I guess, around change.
And I think that's a good point. We've got to look at what is happening just as much as we have to look at what people think is going to happen, because I'm really in this mode at the moment. I'm just trying to learn everything I can about this stuff. I'm interested in it, and it obviously helps my guys and me as well. But it's when you look at some of the research and it's based on what people are saying they will do, you can look at this research and it just is opposing, so these real world examples of what people are actually doing, I think is very telling, and we should be watching and listening and watching these case studies and seeing what's going on there, because
I think it was another case study. IBM, I think, moved off their books around the same number. I think it might have been 8,000 or 9,000 people, mainly from their HR divisions, and that happened, I think, early last year. Since that time, they've hired more than they transitioned out in different functions.
Isn't that interesting? That's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's that evolution piece around what we're doing today, necessarily what we want to do, or B, aren't best doing in the future.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like a bit like we were at the beginning. I know it's very different and much bigger, but when we were at the beginning of the internet, it was a similar kind of thing, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't necessarily no one's going to be having jobs, but there was lots of hype around it and what was going to happen. And sure, the world does look different with it, but I think we adapted, didn't we?
Yeah, Apple released the iPhone and Microsoft said, who wants the phone that can do all this other stuff? We just want a phone to speak with.
Yeah.
So to your point, when the internet took off, it was the change that the businesses that have evolved, that have been created by this platform, you couldn't forecast that. And likewise with this, and this is the biggest change that we'll ever see in terms of the AI revolution or evolution. And again, I'm coming back to that stat around the power of it being 1 million times in 5 years. We just can't compute. Our little brains can't compute what that might look like. So it's exciting, scary, exciting. I don't know, whatever.
It's so funny. I put a post up on LinkedIn yesterday because I thought it was funny, but no one responded, so I took it down. It was about me talking to a robot. Anyway, no, I got it on ChatGPT. I deleted it. We didn't like it. Thanks for that.
I've got a perspective around LinkedIn. You don't have to get the likes.
No, I know. I'm being facetious. You know that.
Yeah.
But it took, but that's okay. But right at the bottom of the post, it said, "Thanks, LinkedIn, for giving me 2 thumbs." Because on the picture, I said, "Can you turn me on the side?" So I'm talking to the robot, and then it did. And then I looked at the picture, and where my hand was, it had turned my index finger into a thumb. So it's like,
have you evolved, BK?
I have evolved. I've got not only an opposing thumb, I've got 3 opposing thumbs. 2 opposing. Yeah, that's right. All right, Rodger. Any parting words? Comments, thoughts?
I think just a thanks for being such a great co-host, and I found it just really interesting and fun to do. And I think it's these type of things that aren't really difficult doing, but I think you and I were chatting way back when, and you were going to start one, I was going to start one. I think we were going to start one for about 3 or 4 years, and it just didn't happen, right? But I think when you can come together and you go further, I think it's that old adage: if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go further, go with somebody or a team. So I've learned a lot over the last 18, 24 months, and it's been fun doing it with you. So thanks, BK.
Thank you. Well, I wasn't actually reaching out for that, but I'll take it. I think the same. Like, I've learned a lot because I kind of bring the representation of the small business founder. You very much bring the automation tech side to things, and the guests just really amplify that. But with that said, I have learned so much and it's been fun. And I would just, if you're listening out there and you are a recruitment founder and you don't have a podcast, I would really recommend, if it's your thing. If it's not your thing, maybe not. But if you're thinking about it, do it, because it really broadens your network. It really helps you learn yourself, and it offers a lot of value, a ton of value. And it's what I love about it too. It's very personal. In this world of kind of AI generated stuff, it's so nice to have something so personal. Although I do know that Arnie Schwarzenegger's podcast is totally AI generated, but there you go. That's a whole nother conversation.
It, though.
I haven't listened, but
it's called The Pump, I think.
That's it, The Pump. Yeah.
And yeah, I was just saying he's got a unique accent, so I think it gets away a little bit more so with that sort of stilted, robotic type.
Yeah. Well, he has been a robot in a former life. He was the Terminator. So
he does have a play on that at the end of every episode, by the way. So
does he?
Yeah. Interesting.
So I would strongly urge you to do that. And if you don't know how to do it, there's a million places you can go and learn to do it. But it's trial and error for us. We kind of took a while to find our feet, but I think we're in the swing now.
Yeah, a lot of error.
A lot of error. Lots of bleepers that you don't hear.
But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think, and doing this stuff gets you a little bit more involved, and that branding perspective, I think, is really powerful. Of the 3 subscribers, I'm being a bit facetious. I think it's your mum, my mum, and somebody else. But interestingly, I was on a call with a board a few weeks ago, and one of the board members who was outside of the industry said, "Oh yeah, I follow you and listen to your podcast." And I said, "Oh gosh, you and my mum," sort of thing, and she's dead.
Listen, we've got a few listeners now.
We do.
We're doing well. Joking. Yeah, don't you criticise our podcast. Well, on that note, I think we should do more one of these, because I just like to pick your brain, ask you a lot.
It's good to recap.
Really good. All right, Rodger, well, we better go because we're almost on the hour. And if people have made it this far, thank you.
Well done.
And like always, reach out to us if we can help. And see you in the next episode where we'll have a third person.
Sounds like fun. All right. Cheers, BK.
Thanks, Rodger. Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of The Tech Savvy Recruiter. If you'd like to stay up to date with the latest recruitment trends and insights, make sure that you remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, if you'd like to speak to Andrew about turning your tech stack into your secret weapon, or myself around creating an agency that delivers you more money, more meaning, and more freedom, we'd absolutely love to chat. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for your support.